sophomore year of high school, I started to notice that it was falling out. I'd be like stressing in a test and like scratch my head or something, and I'd be like, "What is happening?" Like I'm trying to write down in his hair. My friends would make jokes, which like I would make jokes back. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm bald, haha." Oh, I'm gonna be bald by the time I'm like 15. Over time, it kind of started to sit in where I was like, maybe these aren't really jokes, and it's sort of actually what's gonna happen to me. I kind of thought about it. Maybe this is what I'm gonna look like. And so, I'd be on like Snapchat and I'd be bored. I'd go on like the little bald filter just to see what it would look like. And I would just kind of look and see how it would look. I tried hairstyles, just the hair never looked right. I would spend like too long worrying about it. I never really cared about my image too much until I got to college and I started to see different people and like my friends would couple up. We'd be like at different parties and people would be talking to other people. And I was like, maybe I should probably start looking at my image. When I
Yeah.
started caring about like making friends and impressions and everything. And I've usually been pretty chatty, so it's not too hard, but it was still that initial first impression. I didn't want people to see this like mess on my head with like falling out, looking just terrible. So I really started to think about it. I use humor a lot, me making jokes, and then I sort of noticed that other people weren't making jokes about it anymore. And it got to the point where other people were starting to notice that it was actually going. And I think that's
Mm.
when they sort of stopped making jokes about it. I sort of decided it's going. It's basically my hairline was just kept running back, back, back. And we'd be going out. And every time I was getting ready, I'd look in the mirror and it was just like a too long, too much worrying about, like what's going on up there. I started with thickening spray and that was good for like a minute and it looked good. But then again, it just kept increasingly thin. So I turned to growing my hair out and making it super long so I could try and just hide up there. And then I turned to hats and I was a hat guy for a while. And then when I started kind of getting sick of the whole hats and the routine of like, okay, I need to have a hat on and just like the feeling of it. I didn't like being like indoors with hats on, like at dinner tables and stuff, just because I felt kind of disrespectful. And then I tried Nioxin, and I used that for a bit, and it was working pretty good. But then as the summer sort of carried on, I started out as a hat guy, and I was using Nioxin. I was wearing a hat with the Nioxin, so I could kind of like hide it while it grew a little bit. But I was traveling to New York to visit some friends, and I was just traveling all over the place. And the whole just bringing these big bottles of shampoo and conditioner, chemicals, just sort of added to the whole stress of just trying to cover this up. And now I'm bringing like these big bottles with me, and I have like hats and like it was just a whole process just to try and hide something that I didn't really want to hide at this point. I was just kind of like, all right, it worked for a little bit, but this isn't sustainable for me. I've always sort of been like a pretty open person, but then I sort of noticed over time I'd be in pictures less and less and less. It was like subconscious. Like I'd be like the camera guy, be like, all right, I'll take the picture. I'll take the picture. Or like I'll take like a big picture of everyone and make sure like I'm in like just the corner of it. I love being on camera. I worked for like the school's news in high school and stuff like that. Like
Oh,
I love
cool.
the whole atmosphere of being on camera. And I sort of caught myself avoiding that entire like atmosphere, which is really confusing at the time because I just kind of caught myself one day overthinking. I was like, why am I doing that? And it was just kind of like very much subdued self-consciousness. And we'd be like at like family events and everyone would be like, all right, let's take a picture. And then I started to notice it. Once I realized that I've been doing that, I sort of noticed it consciously that I was doing it, but I kept
Mm.
doing it anyway. I like to make lists and sort of chunk, like, okay, this time for this time for this time for this. The biggest variable of time was when I was trying to fix my hair and looking in the mirror, trying to figure out how to look the best I can possibly look. It was a lot of overthinking while I was looking in the mirror. I'd either shower, or if I already showered for the day, then I would just like wash my hair just like in the sink, and just try and move it around as much as possible to try and bring the hairline back down here. It was tough because when I had the hats, it was a lot easier just kind of toss it on and just forget about it. But when I really realized that wasn't sustainable either. And so I was just kind of fronting to myself where I was like, I don't really need to worry about this. So I never really got a routine going, but I would still spend like 20 to 30 minutes just moving it back and forth, side to side, just seeing what would look even decent. And it
Mm.
looked different pretty much every single day. My budgeting, I guess, of time, energy, and money in general, it was just, I realized it was just too expensive. With the Nioxin was one thing, but then all these different ads of like hair transplants and stuff, it didn't seem like that big of an issue. Like for example, I got LASIK surgery. That was like a reasonable expense to me.
Mm.
But like hair transplants and stuff like that didn't seem too reasonable to me. It wasn't like sight, wasn't hearing. It was something that I could live without. I just need to figure out how to live without. So I didn't really want to allocate that much money towards it.
You knew it's something you could live without, but you just had to figure out how, dude. I love that. What was the moment when you were like, no, dude, I've had enough of this.
I think it was just a buildup of just overthinking at night, just like the restless nights. It got to the point where I like to make plans right before I sleep, think out what I'm going to do, different missions, different goals. And my big one was now it was in how can I deal with this? It was how can I shave it all off and not make it a huge deal? And the self consciousness and mental health aspect was really what kind of knocked it to the point where I was like, I need to do something. How and when to go about it. That's when I landed on Halloween. It was a little nerve wracking trying to figure out how to go about it, figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to reveal this almost like a soft launch or hard launch and whatnot.
Mm.
And I knew I wanted to get it done professionally for the first time because I knew I had to prove it to myself that it could look good. So I scheduled an appointment. It was the Friday before Halloween. The whole morning was so weirdo. It's like, all right, this is it. Like I kept looking in the mirror, nervousness, but joy and just kind of overwhelming, like almost relief, but I still was a little unsure. I sat in the chair and the guy turned me around so I couldn't even see the mirror. And I don't know if that was intentional on his part, but I'm glad he did that. um, because it was like it almost made the big reveal so much better. And then we were like taking pictures and stuff, like the first like big swipe, and it was like this whole like funny little whatever. He shaved it all off, and I was sort of like I was really overthinking the entire time I was sitting in that chair. I felt like the chair was on fire. I was like, what is going on? And then when he turned the chair around, it was like I was under a mountain and someone just kind of pushed the mountain right off. Immediate like breath of fresh air, like just the relief, the overwhelming like calm, I guess. Like it kind of like
Mm.
it was like the nerves just got cut and that was it. Like it was no like no more of this like tense
Yeah.
like feeling. And it was just like overwhelming joy and also a little bit of a oh my god, like it's all gone. And it's like it was just seeing myself in that mirror was just like insane, paid, whatever, left. And then when I got in the car, I was just going like this and like rubbing it all over, being like, oh my god, it's actually gone. And then we had a Halloween party that night, which was perfect. And it was just I was just taking so many pictures because I was just so relieved. And everyone we saw in there, all of our friends who didn't know, because I didn't really tell too many people I was doing it, and I posted about it on Snapchat and Instagram and everything, so people would kind of see that and it would be like a
Just get it
not
all out of the
face to
way.
face. Yeah,
Yeah.
pushed it out there. And then I was Walter White that night, and it was really good. Just like being with them, and everyone was just so happy, and I was so happy. And it was just a really good night. I was really kind of nervous for the like head shape, I
Yeah.
guess, and so it was just like the reassurance of them all saying like it looks good was really huge that night. It's just like a overwhelming just positivity, and everyone just is like so supportive of me for it, and I would not turn back. The maintenance is a little fun. It's like once or twice a week. I get lazy and it'll be like 2 weeks go by and I'm like, oh, and there's like a little bit of stubble, but it's so
Mm.
far back I have to keep doing it. But I kind of like almost the whole routine of keeping it up because it gives me like a break where it's like 30 minutes every couple days where I just like focus on that and that only.
Mm. Any other advice that you'd pass on to a guy watching this video who's kind of looking to get out of where he is with the hair situation?
Look at like the options and try everything out and really just kind of trust your gut because I sort of kind of knew that no matter what I was doing to try, I was going to end up bald anyway. But that's also not for everyone. Map it out and kind of work with what your mind says.
Yeah, dude, trust your gut. I like that. I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story on the channel. I'm very grateful. So thank you so much.
Glad to share.